Trump defends the economy as markets digest CPI data and a massive IPO. December 18, 2025, Wall Street and Washington were both in focus Thursday, as President Donald Trump delivered a vigorous defense of the U.S. economy. Fresh inflation data stirred market expectations, and investors cheered one of the biggest IPOs in years. United States Trump pushes back on economic criticism. In a primetime address from the White House, President Trump laid out his administration's case that the U.S. economy is fundamentally strong and improving, pushing back against critics who point to stubborn inflation and slower growth. Trump stressed that the economy he inherited was a mess, and touted policy achievements meant to lower costs for Americans and generate growth. He underscored efforts to reduce inflation and argued that tariffs and deregulation would fuel investment and jobs. While he acknowledged inflation remains elevated compared with historical lows, he said it was moving in the right direction, and that broader economic conditions would improve under his leadership. His remarks came as the latest Consumer Price Index (CPI) figures were eagerly watched by markets, with some data suggesting inflation cooled slightly in November. Analysts noted that slower CPI inflation reinforces expectations that the Federal Reserve may begin cutting rates early next year, a scenario that could boost investment sentiment. Bar chart markets take in mixed signals. Financial markets responded to these developments with a mix of caution and enthusiasm. Stocks broadly drifted as investors parsed the inflation data and what it means for future interest rate decisions. Some major indexes were under pressure amidst a broader rotation out of technology shares into more defensive and financial sectors. Traders also looked ahead to additional economic reports and Fed commentary that will shape expectations for monetary policy in 2026. Moneybag Medline IPO rockets higher, one of the year's biggest. Amid the macroeconomic headlines, Medline's public offering stole the spotlight in equity markets. The healthcare supply company's IPO raised approximately $6 billion, and its shares surged more than 40% in early trading, marking the largest U.S. initial public offering since Rivian's debut in 2021. The strong debut illustrated that despite broader market volatility, investors are hungry for high-profile listings and quality growth opportunities, especially in sectors such as healthcare and industrial services that have still shown resilience amid economic uncertainty. Compass what's next for the economy and markets. With inflation data delivering a mixed message and policy debates unfolding in Washington, investors are bracing for a busy end to 2025 and a pivotal start to 2026. Key themes to watch include Federal Reserve policy shifts, where softened inflation may give way to rate cuts if economic data continues to ease. Labor market trends, where modest cooling could influence consumer spending and growth forecasts. Corporate earnings and IPO pipelines, which remain a barometer of broader economic confidence. In this complex environment, policymakers and markets alike appear to be moving toward balancing inflation control with support for growth and investment, even as political narratives intensify.